Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Marvel's Agents of S.h.i.e.L.D. Season 4, Episode 15. It's called Self-Control. Full spoilers for the episode, as always. Holy crap, episode in a
God
season!
damn it.
Episode of the goddamn season!
Easily.
What the...
What the shit was that? That was phenomenal.
Oh, I loved every second.
Oh my god,
There was,
yes. That was
uh,
non-stop.
the closest I have to a complaint is maybe at the start of the episode, because obviously last week we spoke a lot about who's an l.m.d, is it them, is it not them, is there
They
something more
cleared it
to
up
it?
pretty quickly.
Yeah, when it just cut to them, I was like, oh, they are l.m.ds, okay, okay, cool. Like, it was almost underwhelming because we talked about everything, but that's about it. That is the extent of my complaints. Everything
Can you
else.
remember the last time, or have we ever come onto an episode of Agents of S.h.i.e.L.D. and just been gushing like this? Like we don't even know where to start.
Wait, the last time I remember feeling this way, the two episodes in season 3 that really did it were Gemma on the planet
Yeah.
and the mid-season finale when they got everyone off the planet. Those
Hmm.
were really great episodes, and obviously we really liked the first one back of this as well. The first l.m.d. Cat
Yeah,
Goldie.
but not to this extent where we've come on and just been like, oh my god, this is amazing.
This it's the episode of the season. I'd really have to think about it, but it might even be touching episode of the show.
Oh, it's easily like top 3, top 5 of the
Yeah.
show.
Oh, top 5 of
Without
the show.
question.
Yeah, top 5 easy. No, this
Yeah,
was
even just without thinking, that's a guarantee.
this was phenomenal. This was touching into different things. Obviously, you've got killer robots, which are great, but it really played into the horror of it. But not just obviously there was the on the surface horror of there's a killer robot hunting us down, or there's killer robots all around us, and that's dangerous. There was also the horror of Simmons having to kill robot Fitz, and just the emotion and the darkness of
Oh
that.
God, that entire scene, as soon as it's like, oh, one of them's an l.m.d.
Which they had to be, and it had to be Fitz, because if you remember last week, Fitz said he lost time, so it
Yeah.
had to. Simmons couldn't. If one of them lost time and the other one didn't, it had to be the one that lost time.
Yes, yeah.
So, I knew
But it was just like, also Fitz was on his own, and Simmons
Yeah.
was with Davies.
yeah, deep down, I knew it had to be Fitz, but the scene was so good that
You weren't entirely sure.
yeah, it was back and forth. It was slit your wrists to prove that you're not, and then he
And
slits
he
his
goes,
wrist, and he's
it's when he says, "Oh yeah, but so if I'm a robot, then you see obviously, and then but if not, you've just made me slit my wrists, and you're the robot."
yeah, and
Oh Jesus!
and there's that moment where he just like throws the knife up and turns around and stabs her, and it's like, oh man, this is dark. What are you doing?
Oh, and it's also in that they had the meta reference. It's like, oh, I can't do this to us again. It's
Yeah,
like it's
it
always
always-
every time.
Every time, usually a season finale to be fair, but usually
felt like
finales, it felt like one. This was great, and it was throughout the whole thing as well. I was thinking, this feels like there's too much to actually wrap up. I think the final arc is going to be the framework, and obviously
Yeah.
by the time we get to the end, it's like, no, final arc is we're in the
Yeah,
framework,
it's
and we
'cause
have to save
I'd read
everyone.
an interview with Jed Whedon earlier today, before this aired, saying, "Oh, the final arc, it's really going to be for long-time fans who've been there for the start. There's going to be a lot of payoff for those sort of people." I was like, okay, okay.
Right. So where do I start? I mean, right away, just like Fitz and Simmons in the lab, and they're looking around, and people are walking past, and they're just scared of everyone.
And
It's
it's
just
playing up the horror so much when the other
Yeah.
four walk in. It's like, and it's the music's all those dark overtones of, oh, this is evil.
And it was funny
Everything's shady.
because there's a scene with Radcliffe and Ada where she mentions, or one of them. No, it's actually with Coulson and Mac, fake Coulson and fake Mac. I need to specify that it's not the real Coulson and Mac.
Well, I mean, for this whole episode, it's not the real ones. So
Oh, true. Unless we're talking about them being asleep. Yeah, this
yeah,
it's the fake ones. But they mention, oh, we need to scan and upload the last two. And obviously you take it as Fitz and Simmons, but then they find out it's one of them. Like, oh, so one other person is not an l.m.d. There's a
Yeah.
mistake. One of them's not. And throughout all the scenes, we kept cutting back to like where Ada and Radcliffe were, and we could see some of them on the sort of the stand-up
but it
beds.
was really hiding it, wasn't it?
But it was really hiding Mac and Daisy. Those were
Yeah.
the two that we can never see. And they even knew that's what they were hiding, because they did that little moment where the camera pans and you see Mac, and it lets you know that it's just after he says it's Sky that they still need to get, but it
Yeah.
pans and you see Mac and like, and it leads to some just Great stuff. There's one little filmmaking touch I want to point out, which funny in hindsight it kind of, because we find out later on Sky's not a robot, but at this time we think she is. We think it's she's involved. It's right at the start. It's just after they've been talking actually, the two of them talking about, oh, we need to get the last two. That's a continuous shot. It's all one shot, and then Coulson, when they're planning what they're doing with all the Inhumans and stuff, and he talks to Sky, and the camera then follows with her, and it's just this one shot that follows them and then switches to her and follows her over to the screen when she talks to Mac. And it just encapsulated this idea that they're surrounding everyone, like they're surrounded, like it's like this continuous camera's just turning and following, and you're surrounded by fake LMDs.
Yeah, I also really like that because that works both ways. At the time, it's surround, but then in hindsight, it's separating them as well because it follows them and then it follows her, so it separates her from them.
That whole scene with Fitz and Simmons, everything about it was dark.
Do you know what? There was so many great emotional beats. Obviously, that was one. The moment with Simmons and Daisy, though.
Oh yeah, that. Before we even get to that, I want to talk about Sky finding all the duplicates of her, all the l.m.d. bodies.
That was creepy as shit.
Super creepy. Mac realizes, he goes down and he's like stalking her, and you see the clothes. And I knew she was going to do it anyway, but you see that she's taking her, because they're all in the sort of like this underwear. They're all in matching black underwear.
Yeah.
If I'm going to be pernickety, it's a little convenient she happened to be wearing that exact underwear.
Maybe it's standard issue from S.h.i.e.L.D.
Possibly. But so you know that she's hiding in amongst the crowd of, like, you know, not moving.
It's classic, isn't it?
Skies, and he's like going around with his shotgun axe, and then she like sneaks out and blasts him she quakes him, if you will.
Yeah.
And I was that great, but see, even before we get to the emotional stuff with Sky and Simmons, see the bit before when they don't trust each other and they're just standing in the dark and they're both bloody, they're both like covered, and it's like, this is serious, this is dark, this does feel like a finale. It feels like a finale.
Sky's just watched the video of Coulson and Mac shooting people.
Yeah,
no, Coulson and Mace, sorry.
Yeah, but even that was super dark. It was super, because she looks at it and thinks Fitz is dead, and she is like shocked and appalled. And we know it's not actually Fitz, but she is.
Yeah, and she thinks that Simmons has killed Fitz.
And you can see it, in her eyes, and she's like distraught. So it still matters. And then Mason and Coulson just start Mace. I know I said Mason, but they just start shooting all the agents, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, this is dark. And every single bit of this episode felt brooding. It felt menacing. It felt like they're in no man's land and there's no hope, which is why
so much style to it, didn't it?
Yeah, which is why that moment of like Simmons giving up, it's like, oh, there's no hope, we can't do this. That moment of Sky saying, look, God damn you, we're doing this. I will take them all on myself and we will win. And then there's that line where she says, the one thing I've done this entire time working here is that you and Fitz are meant to be together. And that works so well. That would feel cheap in most shows, but because they waited so long to get them together, because they actually have chemistry, and because we care about them, and let's not even get to the dark ramifications of her hearing that Fitz wants to marry her through the robot that has his memories.
Yeah. So it's still his thoughts. Like that's a real thought. It's like, obviously he's saying it to then to manipulate her, but it's based off real feeling, you assume.
Yeah, and then her stabbing him was so visceral. It's like she's just fighting for her life, but she's stabbing.
It's so he's just stabbing through the heart, like heart, and then his hand just comes up on her throat. It's like, this is so good. So is that, and then
so they have this plan. They've got the sleeping gas. And their plan is to knock everyone out, because obviously the LMDs tell all the other agents, oh, it's Sky and Simmons that are LMDs, let's find them and kill them, because they've killed people, which they killed. But no, Sky and Simmons have got a plan. Sleeping gas knocks all the actual people out, just leaves the LMDs, and that's when we get a badass fight sequence between Sky and Fake Mace.
Yeah, it's one of the best choreographed fight sequences S.h.i.e.L.D.'s had, and it's had some good ones.
It's had some great ones, because the sleeping gas sort of blew up in the rec room, and that's all windows, so that's in fire inside there, so it's this nice glowing background, all these windows.
Yeah, it's not quite silhouette, but it's close.
Yeah, it gives it this really stylized look. And then she comes out, and this is one of the things I love what they've done with Sky, is even though she's got powers and she uses them to great effect here as well eventually, but I love that they make her a good fighter outside of that. And
because we earned that when she trained for a long time with May, and it's like, okay, I buy that she's a good fighter.
Because you remember, I think it was towards the end of season 2, there was a oneer where she came into her room and she like took a bunch of guys out
with the gun.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, it was a fantastic shot.
And it was like, oh man, it does. And she used her power a little bit at the end of that, but it was like, no, you've sold me that she's a badass now and she can do this. And the way she comes in as well with the shotgun. First of all, shotgun axe getting a lot of love. I like it, but that felt very Terminator 2 to me. The way she came
Yeah,
in with a shotgun and she was like shooting it repeatedly.
yeah.
It was very end of
Like
Terminator
knowing
2.
it's not really going to do anything,
Yeah,
but I'm just shoot it anyway.
yeah. And it just she does all these things, and then she finally uses her powers when she quakes herself off the ground so she's got more height for the punch.
Oh,
It's
it's
just
so
a
good.
great moment. And then they go into the rec room, and she's properly beating him up, and she's using her quake powers, and she hits him with a computer, and she's getting tired, but he's not because he's a robot,
Yeah.
obviously. And then she thinks she's got him beat, and then Mac and Coulson show up and shoot
Well,
her
no,
twice.
before I just want to mention that the way she beats him with her powers is also phenomenal. Like she just kind of levitates him, like kind of kicks his feet out,
Oh, actually, she kicks her feet out, quakes so he goes up, and then yeah,
down with the thing that
yeah,
electrocutes him. It's so cool.
yeah. It's a really really cool big money moment. And then she gets shot. I knew she was going to get shot. The way the camera was sitting on her, I was like, she's about to get
Yeah,
shot. She thinks the fight's over. Someone's going to
it's
shoot
too
her from
close
behind,
on her, isn't it?
right? But then they swerved me again, and they shot her twice. Because I didn't. She gets shot. She turns round, looks at
Yeah,
him.
because she
Yeah.
gets shot by Mac. I'm like, oh damn! Now she's gonna have to fight Mac, and that's way more emotional than fighting
Yeah.
Mace.
And then she
And
gets
then
shot in the
Coulson
leg.
from the leg. It's
Yeah.
like, oh god damn it!
She's screwed. And then she does a quake ball. She forms a quake ball.
It's very
in her
Dragon
hands.
Ball.
And then she lets it sort of erupt, and Mac goes full on Terminator. His skin like disintegrates as he's going back, and we just see the metal head just clanking.
And you get
Across
Coulson
the
going
ground.
through the glass.
Yeah, super cool. Honestly, there's a lot of great music in this. The music when Simmons and Sky were having their pep talk
That
moment,
lovely piano piece.
yeah, all
Yeah.
that was rallying up. If I have a complaint about the music, is that I really feel like that moment, because it went silent. They went for a silent moment when they
Yeah.
were going in slow motion, and I thought, I don't know, Sky's steam kicking in there might have been
I
perfect.
get you. I get you.
I don't know.
I mean, we should mention this is the first episode Jedwin's directed. He wrote it as well, and it's his first ever thing that he's directed.
Do you know what that tells me? It tells me for years he's been sitting with, I've got all these ideas that I want to do behind the camera.
Yeah,
And then he got
and
to
he
this.
went for it.
Yeah, he's put in like 20 years of like camera ideas into one episode.
Oh yeah,
And it
he
works.
went for it, and he did a great job.
He did. It was everything about it was great. Emotional beats were working. And obviously, meanwhile, as this is going on, Simmons resuscitates, because they've got antidotes for the sleeping gas while they're not knocked out, and she resuscitates a few of them, including Agent Piper, who's also on Supergirl. I'm convinced she just takes off her S.h.i.e.L.D. badge and replaces it with a DEO badge when she's going between shows, because she's playing essentially the same character on both shows.
Yeah,
To the point where I first, like, when she was on Supergirl for a while, and then she popped up in not Flash, S.h.i.e.L.D., and I was like, she sounds familiar. What's she been on?
she's just another generic agent.
But she like pops up in both, and it's not like she was on one and switched over to the other. She was on Supergirl like last week, 2 weeks ago,
Yeah, yeah. I think she was there for the Martian one.
the Martian one, yeah. So it's like constant back and forth. It's weird. It's like they need to reveal she's actually the same character, or it's like maybe multiverse, and it's like her on another Earth.
That'd be so good.
And that's how we get the eventual
Crossover.
crossover. I don't know what they do with it, but
Don't care. They can
but
do whatever they want.
so it's her and that, and I think it's Davis who's like, I've been learning to pilot the Zephyr, because they have this whole plan, and they bring it up. It's right after the pep talk, or just before the pep talk scene, where they come up with the plan. This is where I'm like, all right, this is the next arc. This isn't going to be wrapped up at the end of this one.
Yeah.
And she's like, nah, they're in the framework. And they established last episode that they had the prototype, so they have the headware to go into it. They just didn't have the software, which is what the framework is what they built. It's like, if we can hack into it, we can go into the framework and get our team out. And I'm like, oh my, that sounds like such a good plot. That sounds so good.
Excited.
And I'm like, but they need to get to the Zephyr and get out of the base. And they established, these two can't fly it. We know this. Like, and the funny thing is I wouldn't even if Sky just piloted it, I wouldn't even have thought about it. But they stuck to the guns.
Yeah, I thought the same. I was like, kind of surprised Sky never learned.
But at the same time, it's like, it makes sense given everything I've seen. But had they just had Sky pilot it, I wouldn't have been like, this is outrageous. She never learned to fly this.
Yeah. The only one thing I have that kind of makes me think. Okay, so they go to the Zephyr, and l.m.d. May is waiting for them.
Okay, because there's a reference earlier on. Fake Coulson says not l.m.d. May. Well, it is l.m.d. May, but I just don't say
Yeah.
May. May is the last line of defense. So I knew as soon as we were going to open the door that May was going to be. I was actually expecting to shoot. So I'm not going to lie. See all that talk about Fitz and Simmons meant to be together. I was expecting Simmons to get shot when they opened the door. I really was.
This is the thing, though. As soon as that conversation with Coulson earlier on, I was like, okay, so May's doing a good swerve.
Oh yeah, I was getting that as well.
I was like, all right, okay, I know where that's coming. I just need to see how it plays out.
Yeah, but I was still worried. Like, it was just when they opened the door, I knew she was going to be standing there, and half of me expected to just instantly take a shot immediately and shoot one of them, probably Simmons, and I was ready for heartbreak. And that's why I want to praise this episode so much. Is it had me so on edge because the tension was so real and because everything was done with such
just right
style.
From the start.
Yeah. At no point did any of it feel cheap. At no point was it like, oh, I know where this is going. Even when you're like, yeah, you kind of get that May's probably going to make a good turn because she realises what her thoughts and feelings are, that they're based on a real person, and she's going to make that choice. As much as I'm sure it's going that way, they're doing it well enough that I almost believe that they might not.
Yeah, and even when they did it a little bit differently, because I thought what was going to happen is they were going to convince her, and she was going to fly it for them.
Oh,
because we know that she's a pilot. So I thought that's where they might go with it.
But instead, they solve at least the current l.m.d. problem because May takes out the entire. So we need a new base next season, by the way. If we get another season, we need a new base.
How did the rest of the team get past her? Because they were there already. You know, the other crew with Davis and.
They could go another way because they said something about they had to go through that door for the hardware because they had this big trolley of stuff. I think they went through like a.
Right. Okay.
That's the way I'm explaining it in my head.
Kind of seems like May was banking on that a little bit.
Well, we didn't see them actually make the decision. It just built up. It built up to it so that when Coulson came in, it was a surprise.
No, her banking on them having hardware, so they had to go through that door.
Oh right. Oh yeah, sure.
If that's the case, I don't know. I noticed because for a second I was like, oh, okay, so the team aren't going to get through, so Sky's going to have to fly it herself anyway.
I feel it's such a minor complaint.
It was, but it took me out just for a moment.
So minor. But no, that scene's great. Like the scene with fake May and fake Coulson, and Coulson tries to sort of sweet talk her, and it's like that wasn't you. That was real Coulson. And
yeah, because we had it earlier on where she talks about how she has all these memories of snow, but this is the first time she's seen it.
Yeah, and she goes out like a hero. Very Buffy bot.
Yeah,
very Buffy bot, and I like that. So they're on the Zephyr and they set stuff up, and we get the end. So they've got Piper, they've got a couple of red shirts who are there to sort of fly the plane and make sure that they're okay. Yep. They pick up Yo-Yo as well. Yep. Yo-Yo's on the flight, and they go, right, so if we die, so they set up some rules. They're like, if we die in there, we die for real. If we're in there too long, our bodies eventually give up. Presumably the ones that are already in it are at more risk of that because they've already been hooked up for a couple of days or whatever. So
May is presumably at the biggest risk.
Yeah, and they also say, and I think this is very important given one of the things we see, is they say, oh, we'll go to where our, because there's like fake versions of them inside it presumably for the other people who might know them.
Yeah, so they're going into their other avatars that are already in the world.
Which makes me worry about Simmons, because we get a nice little montage when they go in, we see Sky wake up, and it says on her phone, this is the only time in the episode that I was really worried for a split second.
Me too.
She gets on the phone and it says, wake up your boyfriend, we need to go. And I'm like, oh my god, no, not Lincoln.
She gets up, she's like, Lincoln? I'm like, no, please no, don't let him be here.
But then I thought, no, it's way more interesting if it's Ward.
Yeah.
Way more interesting if it's Ward. And she gets up and we see the photo and it's Ward. I'm like, yes, they got Ward back somehow.
There's like any excuse to have him in every season.
He's basically the Wells of this show at this point.
He is. Yeah. He is. But I'm okay with that.
Oh, I'm okay with that because this will really mess with her psyche. Because she hates him.
Yeah.
She despises
there was
him.
a thing, so I was looking at about the Simmons thing just quickly before we came on with it. Again, there was another article with Whedon. And they because obviously they asked, like, they were like, well, you didn't just kill her off just like that, surely.
No, she has to dig her way out of the grave. Because we should explain. We see Simmons, there's a tombstone that says Simmons on it so that she's dead.
Yeah.
I was almost expecting the hand to come up.
Yeah, I was as well. He just said, yeah, it's a made-up digital world, so there's certain rules that can be bent, but what happens to Simmons, you'll have to wait and see. Now, what I'm hoping is, obviously, they've all gone into that body. She's been dead for a little bit.
She's going to be a zombie?
Yeah, I'm thinking she's going to wake up in the coffin, a little bit decomposed.
Oh, dear.
Oh, it's going to be amazing if that's the case.
And this was right after we see Fitz, who's looking very swish. Looks like a rich man, like he's maybe made some tech.
Mm,
And we see him take a woman's hand out of the car. We don't get to see her, which is why I'm like, okay, he's with someone else. It's not Simmons.
obviously.
He's with another woman.
Yeah.
Who's to say? Maybe it'll be someone we've known before.
I feel like it probably will be because they hid it.
Mm.
But then maybe they just hid it so it was like, oh, it wasn't Gemma.
Yeah, maybe they'll just hide it because you would think, oh, it's Simmons, but then you see the tombstone. It could have been just that swerve.
Could have just been just that, yeah.
Yeah, rather than it's someone we know. But I still think it might be. It just depends what they're going with it.
Yeah.
We see that. We see Max got a home life. He's got a bike. He seems to have kids.
His daughter is still alive.
Yeah,
by the looks of it.
that's probably what the change
Because
was.
before we go through all this as well, we should mention Radcliffe fixed one regret for all of them.
Yeah, that was
which
a
is
key
what's
point.
created this world, and
Yeah.
and then he got offed.
Oh, let's not
Kind
get
of.
to that. We'll get to that in a minute. Let's stick with the Flash and the Matrix, right?
Yeah,
You're jumping around. We've not finished all those yet.
Okay. So what else do we have next?
So, Coulson's a school teacher, and he's teaching about how Inhumans are bad.
Yep.
But he did mention before he wanted to be a teacher. He's mentioned that.
Yes.
And then we end all these flashes, and May's like in uniform, right? And she says, "This looks like S.h.i.e.L.D." And then the camera's panning like, "Oh, this looks like the base from Winter Soldier and that got destroyed." Camera keeps going. Giant Hydra logo on the building.
And that is the next arc. It's called Agents of Hydra.
Is that what it's called? Oh,
Yes, it is.
oh my.
Oh, I'm so excited.
That's very interesting. So no, that was good. And speaking of dark, yeah, Ada, he knew what she was about to do.
Oh, yeah.
Because she's talking about this paradox, how defending the framework at all costs, but also defending him at all costs contradict. And he's like, how does that contradict? And she explains that, well, eventually he might regret this and try and shut it down. So he explains that, well, it's okay if their bodies die eventually because they'll be in there and they'll be alive inside forever. And is like, and she's like, oh, you've just solved my paradox. And I'm like, oh no, she's about to kill him. That's great.
Yeah,
but I didn't realize she was going to slit his wrist. That was really dark.
Yeah, it was such a quick motion because he had his arms out like he was talking to her because he's a very emotive man as he speaks, and it's just one slash across both at once.
Yeah.
And
he's
shoves
bleeding
him in.
out. He's bleeding. He's like bleeding, literally bleeding, as he's like been hooked up to the computer. And then he's in there, and that's a setup. We got all these. Obviously, there's one more thing, but we got all the characters inside the framework. Two of them, of course, S.h.i.e.L.D. and Simmons, know who they are, where they are, what's going on, and they need to convince all the other team members that they're in the Matrix and they have to fight it their way out.
Well, and then not just that. I'm sure it's going to be also. Hang on, do we want to go out? Is it better in here?
And what does like fake digital Ward do when S.h.i.e.L.D. tries to leave, and what like?
Well, I'm
what,
assuming they're both Hydra agents in this.
well, yeah, but what I mean is like when
Yeah.
she's trying to leave, what's his like? Does he notice that something's suspicious? Does he try and investigate it? Does he try and stop her? Does he realize I don't want you to leave, and he tries to keep her there?
Yeah.
And then
This is so much potential for this arc.
and then we have Hydra as well itself, which should be interesting. And I wonder whose regret was fixed that Hydra's functioning.
It could be like knock-on effects.
Yeah, because Coulson never stayed with S.h.i.e.L.D. He never joined up.
So then the Avengers never got created.
Yeah, and then it's a knock-on effect from there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe during Winter Soldier they won and they took over.
Yeah, that's what I'd assume.
Interesting. Oh man, so good. Well, that's the l.m.d. finale. Jesus.
What an episode.
What an episode. Yeah, the only other thing that mention is Superior has now got a robot body, which he's not very pleased about. His head's in a jar, which
Yeah,
I do love
that's
that.
pretty cool.
I love that part. The head in the jar's pretty funny.
Yeah.
And Ada is wanting to get her own feelings and stuff, and that's kind of
I
her
love that
goal.
it makes her so sympathetic as a villain because it's all she wants to do is be like everyone else. She's not trying to take over the world, really. That's not her aim. She just wants to feel.
I think what's interesting from Radcliffe's perspective is if he's aware inside the Matrix, the framework, if he's aware that he was forced in here and his body's now done, like, is he hypocritical then saying, well, I'm upset I'm dead, I want to go back out there into the real world? It's like, well, you created your framework.
Is that why you can't, can you?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
But he gets to hang out with the real Ada, so I guess he's
But then
happy.
that raises the moral question of when they come out at the framework at
Did
the
they
end of the
destroy it?
season,
Yeah.
if they destroy it, they're killing him.
And they're killing her as well.
Well, yeah, exactly. So is it like is the moral quandary there, is it murder that they're doing then, or is it just no, this has to be destroyed?
Do you know what I think works with this quite well, actually? Is that because we've seen them have May, and we've seen May, like, we've seen the evolution of it where we try to give her a happy life in there and it didn't work. She kept fighting back. Like, we've seen it, they've had to work on it over time, and
Yeah.
it's grown and it's grown until the last couple where they've said, oh, I've built an entire world and we've meddled with it, and there's now avatars of other people around to keep it populated so it's not just the people who
Yeah.
are in and that kind of thing.
So much that they can do with this arc.
There's
So excited.
there was a lot to do. 7 episodes. It should be a wild ride when it comes back. And if we don't get a season 5, I hope there is. But if we don't, this seems like a perfect kind of arc to actually have them all find each other again at the end and give them a really nice send off because they'll all grow again together, and that'll be nice. When
It's gonna be,
the moment where some of the characters realize and remember should be quite
yeah.
touching. Hopefully,
And then they're gonna remember and go, even though I remember this and I missed that relationship, am I still better here?
it depends. I think it'll vary character to character.
Yes, but I'm expecting at least one or two of them to have that reaction.
Probably. I think
Mac, maybe it seems the logical one for me.
Yeah, Max seems the logical one. I feel like Coulson's too much of a hero if he learns that, oh wait, the
Yeah.
Avengers were created and we saved the world, and we should probably do
I
that.
wonder if they end up writing anyone out of the show in that way. Like if we lose a member of the team, which we typically do most seasons at this point, and they decide not to destroy the framework as they come out, but the person who wants to stay in, they leave in, but maybe they take down Hydra within the world and leave it a better place for them to live out their life.
Maybe, I don't know. I feel, honestly, I'd feel kind of cheated losing any of them like that.
Well, yeah, but
Because who would you even be willing to lose?
I wouldn't want to lose any of them, but you never
Coulson,
do.
Mac, Fitz, any of them?
Like I said,
May?
Max seems the obvious one that they'd do that with, to me at least, but I don't want them to. I can see it as a possibility. It's going to be a long 6 weeks without it.
Yeah, we're on a break, but I like this structure. I like 3 arcs. I like breaks between arcs, but not in the middle of arcs. That's a really good
Yeah,
idea.
because this, what 7 episodes we just had?
Yeah, that was 7.
It was a nice uninterrupted chunk of just, nope, here's your story. And it was great.
Yeah, an 8 and 2 sevens. That's how the season's played out. So, no, that is the it's not a minute. It's the arc finale, the l.m.d. finale of Agents of S.h.i.e.L.D. Let us know what you thought of this episode and the arc as a whole in the comments below. Like and subscribe and all that stuff. It helps us out a lot if you do. Get us on Twitter at @mailed_fuzz for channel updates. Get our individual Twitters on the screen there for general shenanigans. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time.